everyone. Can you please stand up? And
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
okay, roll call, please.
Yoonmin,
Present.
Iniesta Garcia,
Present.
Sue Chang,
Here.
Helen John,
Yes.
Kevin Lin,
Yep.
Rebecca Lee, Anthony Kim,
Here.
William Kim, Charlie Shin,
Yes.
Dr. Cirillo,
Here.
John McCann,
Here.
Eliana De La Cruz.
Okay, in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 PL, 1975, I hereby state that adequate notice of this special meeting has been provided to the public by a written notice dated April 11, 2023, date of published notice. The meeting notice has been emailed to all staff members at the district's 3 school locations, communicated to at least one of the board designated newspapers, filed with the Board Club of Palisades Park. So now we are going to have a budget presentation. So Dr. Cirillo and Mr.
Kondowski.
are
Thank you.
going to present.
So if you can bear with us for a few minutes, and thank you for being here this evening. As part of our April meeting, just for the public's edification and for that of the board, we have our annual school budget hearing. This is about 10 slides. We will open it up to the public for any questions, and this will be made available on our website as well. Mr. Kondowski, Ms. Gillis, who was our interim business administrator, and I have been working on the budget with the Finance Committee since probably the month of November. We always are conscious of the local taxes because, as you will see on these slides, the taxes in our local government are made up of the majority of our tax levy. Our state funds and our federal funds make up very little percentage of our taxes. Being that we are no longer an April board election borough, our 2% cap is what we are fixed at. So what we will show you and will allow for questions is our budget hearing, but please be aware, this has already been tentatively approved by the board for submission to the county last month, has already been approved by the county. And when I say the county, there are representatives of Bergen County that work for the Department of Education. They have approved our budget, but the public of Palisades Park has the right to be heard and ask questions of our budget for next year, effective July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024. So we will go through this, and again, if there are any questions, we will allow that for the end, please. So as you can see, this is clearly a very short, simple budget presentation. We will allow for any discussion by board members and for the adoption, which has already been approved as a tentative submission, but tonight in finance, we will need a formal approval by way of resolution for our budget for next school year. Some challenges. When Governor Christie was in office for the state of New Jersey, he imposed a 2% tax increase on all municipal government. It was an opportunity to save districts money and allowed for districts to move from the traditional November election to April. Excuse me, vice versa, from April to November. Because November we always had a general election. So it allowed districts to save money on an election where we would have to foot the cost. Some of the very important features that were there were clearly that no district could go beyond 2%. We are not going beyond 2% as a school board. We have some very big increases in our budget, but again, they will not exceed 2%. The first one is that in 23-24, and I know it's very small print, we have $5,383,150, where in the 21-22 school year, we had a $4.4 million budget. And we went back a few years because COVID, obviously, keep in mind, you're only allowed to go up by 2% on your local tax levy. We have a difference of $949,000. I want everyone to be aware, it's public knowledge. Our teacher increases are at 3%. 3% for teacher increases without salary and benefits equates to a very large number of that 2%. In the 23 school year, 24 school year, ELA, English Language Arts, and Mathematics are up for readoption in curriculum. We have to update our curriculum in those two areas, which will obviously require much professional development and curriculum writing. Special education. This has been obviously something that is very, very concerning to many school districts, not just Palisades Park. But as you can see, last year, in the 22-23 year, we had 24 students that required services outside of Palisades Park schools. Next year, we are anticipating 29 students. 29, that's 5 additional students. Please, 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 please keep in mind, when we educate special education students in our district, for the most part, our tuition does not increase too much. When they are at a district, anticipate an increase of about $80,000 to $100,000 per student, inclusive of transportation and or a teacher aide. Those are big numbers in a small budget like ours. We are continuing to increase our bilingual education. As you know, our community continues to change. I want you to notice this is a fact. This is not something that I am making up tonight. 30% of our population in Palisades Park schools is English as a second language, ELL, English language learners, 30%. 20 years ago, I started in this community, we were about 12-13%. We've not only doubled it, but we've almost tripled it. 30% of our population is speaking a language other than English. We are continuing bilingual programs in all of our schools. We are working with the Department of Education to offer those programs to help those children better acclimate to our schools. As far as our buildings, I don't need to tell you. Clearly, this has been a very trying week, Joe. As you know, you give me a thumbs up, you deserve a thumbs up, as does everyone else. Christian, Alex, everyone that has been all in since Sunday morning when I got that first call about Lindbergh School. Clearly, our buildings are very old. We need to continue to bring them to more current state. We need to upgrade our facilities, but with a 2% tax levy, it's almost impossible. I promise you, there is no money that's being hidden anywhere. This is all transparent. This is why we do a budget hearing. Money is not being hidden. We need to continue to improve our facilities. Our roofs are not getting any younger. They're only getting older. We need to continue to fix those. Technology. We need to, as we've done in the last 2 days, deploy devices immediately when a crisis happens. We have a fire that we're dealing with. In the last 2 days, Christian and his team has deployed in excess of 300 machines to children. So that tomorrow, Friday, and I hope that's the end of it, but we don't know yet, we're able to do virtual instruction. The intercoms, the bells, the clocks, this is critical. Lindbergh Elementary School has an antiquated system. It's 2023. That building is almost 100 years old. We need to update everything and anything. Last but not least, we can't just continue to fix what's broken, but we also have to think about the future. And the future is internships. Eliana is sitting there. Eliana's gonna go to college next year. We can't just help them go to college. We need to prepare them so they're ready when they get there. What I can tell you wholeheartedly is, I worked with Mr. Garcia for a very long time this year, Ms. Baez. The team at the high school is really prepared. We are going to start to offer more internship programs in the community, in the surrounding communities, to better assist our students to be better acclimated for what the real world is like. That's our goal, that's our plan, that's all inclusive in this 2%. It's hard to believe we're making it happen. So in our 2%, there's a lot going on, I promise you. We are fingers crossed, hoping for the best, and again, thankfully to our board who approved our tentative submission, to our county who approved our budget, able to make this work. Alex.
Sure. This slide explains the general fund, which includes the local tax levy, you have the state aid, and the budgeted fund balance. That's all in the general fund, that $30 million number that you see there. The special revenue fund comprises of all our title funds, Title 1, 2, 3, 4, IDEA. And special revenue is made up solely of federal and state grant monies, which is allocated to the district. So the board is very cognizant to make sure that we put away some money to fund capital and maintenance reserves in order to try to reduce or not have any future referendums. So as you can see, we don't have any debt at this point, and we don't anticipate any debt moving forward.
Thank you. This is a very important slide. I think I am a visual learner. Again, there are many types of learners in the world we live in, but as you can see, anything in blue is made up of our property tax levy. Alex just talked about the $33,554,753. That is our budget. That is what the Palisades Park Schools operates under. I want you to know of that $33,554,753, Palisades Park taxpayers are responsible for $25,854. $25,854,000 comes from the local taxpayers. Our state aid, as you can see, is $2.6 million. Special revenue is $3.2 million, approximately, of course, and our fund balances are $1.6 with some extra and other aid that's being offered to us. That might be by way of rentals of our facilities. But $33 million, 77% of our budget comes from local taxpayers. It's a very simple to understand graph. I think the next one will be very telling for anyone that has never had a school finance class. And there it is. When you look at your employees' salaries and benefits, salaries is 59% and stipends, so a coach, an advisor of a club, and benefits at 18%. I will approximate and say 59 plus 18. There's a lot of math people in the room. 77% is going to salary and benefits. So of that original $33 million number, 77%, almost 80% of our budget is gone before we start. It's salary and benefits. We break it down even further. Special education. We talked about the special education students that are going out of district. Almost $2.2 million in revenue on transportation, tuition, and services, whether it's OT, occupational therapy, PT, physical therapy, speech, or whatever their disability calls for. We have to service those needs. Operations and maintenance. This is a very, very, very big number, but $1.357 million. Heat, hot water, electric. That's just your operations and maintenance. OTPT related services, I talked about that briefly with special education. There's a separate line, $850,000 approximately for special education services. Transportation, we've all heard about it. A few months ago, we talked about it. I tried to do right by our own transportation providers in district. I wanted to give them a few extra dollars so we don't lose them, because they are so in demand. We are paying almost $773,000 in transportation for our students. And we don't offer busing for our own kids in district. That's for kids that are going out of district. That's for kids going to academy programs. That's an astronomical number. Instructional supplies, professional services, $880,000. It's all broken down to a T. When your budget, 80% of it is gone before you start, fingers are crossed that we don't have a crisis like we just did. And thank goodness we have insurance.
So this is probably the most important slide. It shows the effect on the local taxpayers. We took the original budget from this year and we compared it to next year's proposed budget. You see the $25 million, the local tax levy there. Total assessed valuations is the $3.7 billion, which we took from, basically a tax assessor gave us that number. And this is the total of all residential and commercial properties in Palisades Park. We did a calculation. You can see the general fund, the percentage, and the tax assessor also gave us the average residential price of a home. This current year is about $723,000. The difference from this year to last year would be an increase to the taxpayers of $47.26.
So on an average home in Palisades Park, as assessed not by the school, by the town, at $723,000 approximately, the homeowner would pay an additional $47 solely for school. We don't know what the increase would be in the borough, but on a home assessed at $723,000, if the home is assessed higher, that rate obviously would be higher. These numbers are determined by the municipal government and the borough of Bergen County. Okay? We've worked with Mr. Apicella, Mr. Anzavino. These numbers are derived from their offices. And that pretty much concludes our presentation. I know it's a lot to swallow, a lot to digest, a lot to absorb. If there are any questions, any comments, any concerns, please, we will do our very best to answer them. Yes, ma'am.
So you said 2% per year, and I'm assuming that's not stacked, so it can never exceed 2% of the entire tax levy?
So that's a great question. Can it exceed? There are opportunities where you can exceed 2%. In the event you have an increase in your student enrollment, there can be an opportunity to seek more than 2%. If you have an increase in health benefits, you can seek additional additional funds, an increase of 2%. We are not seeking anything more from the borough than 2%.
And that would be sought through the Bergen County executives, or that would be sought?
That is
through the
strictly through the town of Palisades Park, the 2%. We're not seeking anything more or anything less than the 2% that is permitted to us.
And is that reflected in the explosion in student population that we have? Because obviously we're educating more students than we were.
So the reality is we are not eligible this year for any adequacy of enrollment increase. In the past we have been, and we have sought those numbers and dollars, and we have received them. This year we have not increased our population by way of asking for additional funds.
Okay.
We are strictly seeking a 2% as permitted by the law and the statutes.
Did the funds include whatever additional funding we potentially could receive for the pre-K program? Is that reflected?
No.
Or is that separate?
Separate
This?
entirely.
Okay.
So what we were looking at, the 2% is only on the local tax levy. So if the tax levy is $25 million, we'll use a round number, 2% of that would be 490,000. Jonathan, am I wrong? Help me out, guys. Oh, it's 500, sorry. We can only get 2% on the local tax levy. We cannot get 2% on what our federal money is, our state money is. We only get 2% on what the local tax levy is. Yes, Mr. Shin.
Okay, for example, there is some say that like 400 unit apartment is coming to Palisades Park.
Yes.
And let's say like 100 students coming from that unit, it's almost 7% of the student of total Palisades Park school.
Yes.
Then still 2% is applied.
Not necessarily. To Aniesca's question, when we submit on October 15th of every year, we submit our student information demographics to the State Department of Education. There is called a snapshot, October 15th. If they realize that your student enrollment has increased, you can seek additional money in excess of 2%. We have not gotten an increase of enrollment. We are at 2%. In the past, we have been eligible for an increased enrollment.
Okay, what is the percentage of the school budget compared to the total town budget?
I apologize. I am not familiar with the town budget. I believe a few years ago, there was a presentation with the town budget. Mr. Kim, do you know what the town budget is?
Yeah, about 27 million.
27 for the town,
27.5,
about 20, what was our folks tax levy, 25 here?
25 million.
So I guess it would be fair to say that the borough of Palisades Park is approximately in excess of $50 million. We are about 50% of that. It sounds like they're a little bit higher, we're a little bit lower.
Can you tell me your knowledge of the
You're
other
trying to set me
towns-
up, buddy.
Other towns, the percentage of the school budget compared to
My
other
knowledge
towns?
is I am going to make it work. I'm gonna be politically correct. If we received more, I would be
Just
very
give me a
grateful.
fact, okay?
I don't know, 60%. Jonathan is the auditor, he might know better than me. I don't know, Mr. Shin. I've worked here for 20 years. I anticipate 2%. I am grateful for 2%. I'm very mindful that taxpayers want a quality education. And we are doing our very best to provide that. Should we get more? I wish we got more. I'll leave it at that.
To my knowledge, okay, most
Yes.
of the other towns, the school budgets like more than 55% or sometimes more
I said
than
60.
60%.
I apologize.
Yeah,
I
right.
said that.
Yes. But just our town, the school budget is only 50%.
A little bit
This
greater, I'm sure.
Doesn't, sounds like reasonable, okay? But there was some case, we didn't increase 2% budget in previous years, right?
Yes.
That one is okay, if we don't increase 2%.
I'm gonna tell you, it's not okay. We have continued increases in our costs. If we continue to increase our salaries and benefits as we are doing, it's not financially stable to run our school district. We have to continue with the times. I don't wanna take anything away from our children. I can't reduce the cost of the lights, of the heat, of the water. Those bills are gonna come in regardless. I think we have to continue to work with the local government. We have been doing much better, I promise you. And we have to be mindful that escalation continues to increase. And hopefully we can have better communication and by way of that, increase cost in the future.
So I just have a question that Mr. Kim mentioned that the town budget is 27.5 million.
Yes, sir.
And our budget 25 million, right?
Yes.
So there is total $52.5 million, right? So our budget, proportion to town is like less than 50% that allocated to us.
As per his point, yes.
I think that's, I don't know, that's way too low, like even less than 50%.
So we are stuck between a rock and a hard place. When we are limited to a 2% tax levy.
But that number is correct or not?
I can't speak for the town number. I trust that Mr. Kim is right. I trust that we have our employees, we have to continue to pay their salary, their benefits, but we also have to maintain our bills. We have to ensure that we are not just satisfied with status quo, that we want to build. I want to bring more programs to our schools.
The town's major, source of revenue is like property tax, right? So So the property tax is majority of the fund that's going into town, and I think it should be more than 60 or so, maybe 60 or so.
I would love for that to be the case, sir. I would love to meet with the mayor and council and continue to
But
ask
just
for more.
simply, some kind
I'm
of
trying.
some kind of question,
I'm trying.
the number is right or not, even less than 50% of budget allocated to school.
I appreciate Mr. Kim, I appreciate his honesty, I think we will continue to work closely with them. And if- Please, answer.
See, when you see the budget, it was $33 million, but tax levy was $25 million.
That's why, yeah.
When I say $27 million, it could be the overall budget, not a tax levy. So that, I have to find it out.
Yeah, looks like to me it's way, it's like a total 50.
We cannot compare such a way. We just said the 25 million.
Well, I think, recently-
27 million, only because you guys are on the tax levy for 25 million. And 27 million could be not a tax levy, it could be a overall.
Yeah, there's
budget like
there's
23 million.
other source of revenue, or majority of the, source of income from town is like tax levy. And, I don't know whether 2014. It's kind of to me like,
So you cannot compare like that.
Kevin, I can tell you that, I'm hopeful that we can continue to have good relations with the mayor and council. There are opportunities for us to share costs, whether it be via security, whether it be via transportation. However, we can continue to work together, because it requires a little bit of effort, but a lot of strategy. And I think there's possibility that working together, we can make this happen. I think we can continue to help each other. There are opportunities to do that, and I think we're trying to do that. Yes, Mr. Shin.
So the next year, the number of students will be increased by 2%, right? From 100.
Not necessarily, I hope not.
You estimate like that because
Not 2% increase in students.
from 1588 to 1623 is 2% increase, the number of students. On all, the number of students here.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're looking at.
Even the students.
So is this on user-friendly budget? You're looking at a number of 15, this is 2021.
Yes,
We are looking at the 2023, so that's in 2 years.
okay.
I'm sorry.
So everything has been increased. Okay?
We are anticipating an
And even
increase.
the number of students has been increased. But if the budget is limited to 2%,
Yes,
but the teacher's salary has to be increased
it doesn't,
By
it has to be
3%.
negotiated.
3%, right?
Well, it will be
Then the
negotiated.
quality, then the,
Don't tell them what you're gonna give them yet, they're in the audience. Then we're finished with negotiations.
okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, next year is 3%, that's already established. Next
Yeah,
year is
so
the final year of their
That's the money we
contract.
have to pay like, in this, from this
Yes, in
budget.
this budget,
3% increase.
Amanda, not anything less than that.
So everything has been increased, but the budget is limited, so the
So-
quality of the Palisades Park School students should be,
So to my point, Mr. Shen, what I want to do, we have private security in our schools. There's an opportunity to work with the borough and have the borough maybe help supplement some of those costs. And instead of it coming from our local tax dollars in our budget, maybe they have extra funds and they can pay for that. There are ways to work together, and I'm willing to do that. I'm never going to say, no, thank you. If they wanna give us more, please do. Stephanie, welcome. Good, you have a check? You have a check?
I wish I could, I'm fighting every day.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
okay, so our teachers, okay, what we have to do in detail, okay, not like
Yes, sir.
the transportation or something,
Yes.
the sharing of the cost between town and school.
Yes.
Okay, say something in detail, then we have to work, okay?
Absolutely
According
right.
to this situation, we have to work,
100%.
so.
The 2% does
okay.
not help us. I want to be clear. When you're given a 2% tax levy, and a 3% increase, 3% is always gonna exceed 2%. Let's call it what it is. But we also have to make sure that we are not compromising any student programs when we continue to do what I believe is right for our faculty and staff. 3% cost of living continues to increase. That's negotiable. That's something that the team and the union negotiates. That's not something that I'm gonna stand here and tell you, give them less, take more. That's not my place. I'm a neutral party in that. But 100%, we have to be very mindful and think outside the box. How can we make this work? And we are doing much better than we have. I promise you.
Dr. Ferrer,
Yes, sir.
I just want to make clear that when I say about $27 million, that was the total budget. Your total budget is not 25 million. Your total budget is $33 million. So I think that's where the miscommunication comes out from. So if you want to compare 27 million, then yours are 33 million. So we should compare like that.
So, Councilman Kim, so the portion of, compared to total the town expenditure, the percentage of the school budget against the town's budget, is it compared to the other towns, is it fair amount, fair portion,
I
you
do not
think?
know. I don't know what other town is.
You have 30 years the education member,
Yes, I
and
do.
you have
I
10
don't
years
know
experience in the
other
government.
We would always ask for more, but at 2% we can't get more unless there is an adequacy adjustment.
And that, I'm sorry, that's designated by the state?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
so it's not the towns, it's a state regulation.
that is correct. If there was a referendum, something according to those statutes, we can ask the taxpayers for additional money. She said, no, I didn't even ask yet. Mama mia. Just imagine your daughter was still gonna be in school. Man, she sold you out.
That's not what.
All right. Now, listen, there are options, there are alternatives. I can tell you wholeheartedly, I wish we had more. We are not, Mr. Weiss is gonna speak in a few minutes about our audit. He pretty much, as an outsider, came in and evaluated all of our books. And we are extremely transparent. There is nothing we are hiding. And if you find it, let me know where it is, please, because I can't find it. But with that being said, it's not easy. We make it work. We have a resilient faculty, staff, and most importantly, our students. And we continue every day to get better than the last. I leave it at that. Yes,
I don't
Ms.
know if
Chung.
it's relevant to the budget, but prior email to you, just a separate question regarding the lease agreements between board and the town.
Mhm.
You said it has been terminated and
What was?
the lease.
The lease with the,
Of the
with the
school.
field?
And the
Yeah,
period.
so we had an agreement with the Borough of Palisades Park for the use of the fields. The schools are owned by our municipality, they're not my schools.
So if
we are
that
speak-
lease, that will affect this budget?
Not necessarily, no, because our borough is very mindful. They're not necessarily renting those schools to us. The schools are free of charge to us from the borough. I go on record and say this, our building where I am located, central office, is a $1 a year charge. They're not charging us. They're very mindful that we are obviously tight on funds. Regardless, we do need to renew a lease agreement with the borough. Thank you.
When?
I asked for that, and hopefully the attorneys can work together to do that. Sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions regarding the
Does
budget?
anyone have any questions? If not,
Yes.
Who determine how to increase or we could get more from the school to the town? How we do that? Because as you mentioned already, we need more. And we see that we need more for our school for all different levels. To get more. School bus for the student, for athletic, more. So how can we ask for more from the school to the town? And why we haven't started doing that, or the board haven't started doing that in advance, because we see that we need more.
I think respectfully, I'm not here to defend anyone. I know my responsibility. It's to report to 9 members of the board. It's to make sure that our 1,850 students are in a good place. I think we already started that. I think, one perfect example, Eliana, you going to the prom? The borough has paid for their buses. I'm not paying. The Board of Education is not paying. We are fortunate. The borough has picked up the tab. We are starting to make those conversations, not just once in a lifetime, but every year. We need this help. Additionally, if, like Mr. Shin said, if our increase in enrollment continues to rise, because there are more homes being built,
No, but I mean.
we can get more money from them.
Not for one-time occasion like that, and that's very nice from the town to provide that. That was one time.
But it's not
Even
one
so-
time. They've been doing it every
Well,
year now
yeah,
for
no,
the
but
last
I
few
mean,
years.
one time a year, but I mean to get better quality, because we are now living, but to live better, to have better quality. That's my thing. We could have one car who move us to different places, but if we wanna have a better car, how can we start getting that from what the source that we need?
I think
so
you
we
know
could
me
get it?
very well. I'm not here to tell you something that is not true. I always tell the truth. I have had meetings with them. I have had meetings with architects. I've been begging for this building, for the pre-K program to expand. Guys, I don't like to put the cart before the horse. We are moving in the right direction. The borough is meeting with me, and we are meeting to make this expansion a possibility. I promise you, I just hope that we continue to move in the right direction. We have 2 council members here. I don't think they would be here if they're not working with us. Fingers are crossed.
Yeah,
We're working, we're moving in the right direction, I promise you.
We are in the urgence of, those numbers are there, but the cost of living is getting more, and our kids need more to be more prepared for the life that we see is
Absolutely.
coming. So we need more technology, we need more things for the kid, more, to get more prepared athletic too. That when our kids go to any
Colleges
sport,
and universities,
any sport,
that
they
they're
could go more
prepared.
prepared, but
Yes.
that they need more coach, that we need more involved, more everything. That
I
the
agree.
kid, if the parent cannot afford to do that, that the school can provide that and go prepare and feel like we send them to fight in other places that they could be prepared and not feel embarrassed. So we are very low in that, not because the school don't wanna do it, it's because it's no money.
We're working. I promise you, it's not something that we say, forget about it. We're getting better, and I promise you, today is better than it was yesterday.
No,
I'll leave it at that.
I hope I can see a little bit before my daughter leave.
I hope
the
before I
school.
die.
Like my daughter have 3 years left, so I hope, I want it
She's not in
better.
pre-K, so I don't know, I'm sorry.
I hope that it's getting a little better.
Yes, sir.
May I ask you a question?
No.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I saw the about $2.5 million altogether for special ed.
Yes, sir.
including, transportation.
You wanna pull that slide up, Alex, please?
So my idea was that, long time ago, Ridgefield High School had their own special ed
Wonderful
schools.
program.
Yeah,
Receiving students from all over the county.
that's right. So they saved a lot of money by doing so.
Absolutely, and brought money in by
That's
bringing students in.
So my question is, how about we? Is it
You own a
possible-
building that I don't know about? Like, what do you?
You need the facilities.
If
Yeah.
we have a facility, do you
Yes,
think
sir.
it's possible?
Absolutely, anything is possible.
So
And I
let's
never
talk
say-
about it later on.
I never say everything is possible, but it requires everyone to work together. It requires a vision, a
Yes.
plan. We can't just say, hey, Richfield has a program. I'm sending students to Richfield every year. Part of this $2.2 million is our money going to Richfield. And not only Richfield, but other special education programs. That's our tax dollars. But when they have, respectfully, better programs for special education students that require more close attention to service their disability,
Yeah.
they should go there. And until I can promise those parents of our children, I can do the same,
Yeah.
and not only our students, then I can start bringing other.
Right.
I don't have the facilities, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Spalazzo's house might be for sale. I can't afford it. No, forget about it.
I wanna get out. That's all.
Any other questions on our budget? Jason, we can,
Okay, we can talk about it.
I'm glad you have like a business mind lately.
Well,
Yes, Ms. Chang. Thank you for
That
being
every
here.
year,
Yes.
while I was serving, I remember that we were short, we never really had enough. But so far, I'm really glad to say that every year, we came up with some, whatever revenue that was the grant writing, or, the free grant from state, or whatever the reason, it's been managed, so that's a miracle,
And our fingers are crossed, and we're very lucky. I had this conversation with our principals today. I had a meeting.
Mhm.
We were very lucky, unfortunately, due to COVID, to receive a lot of money.
Mhm.
But that money expires really soon.
I know.
And when that money expires, then what? We have to think outside the box.
But
Programs,
I remember-
facilities, tuition.
Yeah,
Just like other people are being very creative, we have to do the same thing.
exactly, so it's been managed, it's a miracle. And also, I heard, when I was serving from the borough, the mayor, ex-mayor, they were saying like, you guys never asked for money.
How do you want me to send them the letter?
That's what I
I'll send a
said.
pigeon there right now.
That's the
That's
reason
what
why I
I've
do the
been
question.
hearing.
I am,
Yeah,
I
I
am,
said, like-
I am only permitted to 2%. I can tell you that the finance chair is sitting on that dais tonight. We have talked about something called bank cap.
Mhm.
I am very mindful and respectful to all the taxpayers in this community. I have been here for 20 years.
Yes,
I care about you all.
I know, and.
I know your kids might not go to our school anymore, but your taxes go to our school, and we have to be mindful of that.
And also, my recommendation or the begging point to you is like, be all together and be more aggressive.
I think we are. I think we are.
Go
I don't
for
know
it.
about that young lady over there, but Miss Dela Cruz, I don't know what team she's on yet. Yes, sir.
yeah, the continuation.
Didn't you have a meeting on Monday?
Yes.
Well, you guys should speak more on Monday than on
Yes.
Wednesday.
But that's the reason.
Continuation from the Councilwoman Stephanie, but I have to say this, that the last few years, really what has happened is our superintendent has been getting a lot of grants for our school system. And really, I personally really appreciate that. We should give him a hand for that. Let's give him a hand for the grant money, as well as for future grants. Because grant money is the one that you cannot get it from the taxpayers. That's from outside.
Thank you.
And he worked very hard, and he keep working for it. Another grant money is on the way, so we have to push him. We give him a hand, so now we are pushing.
3
Thank
months
you,
ago, he
thank
talked
you
about
very
giving hugs. Now he's pushing. Any other questions regarding the budget hearing?
Just for the last thing.
Yes.
Now that we have our liaison from the board.
Borough.
They are working close with the school, and thank you.
I talked to Jason
So-
more than my wife.
Yes.
I know,
But
keep calling me.
every time we go to the meeting, or every time I go to the town meeting, as I go diligent every month, the thing is communication. I see that is communication as saying that you don't ask for what we need. So my suggestion as a parent, as a resident, as you know me for so many times, what is it? What do you need to communicate that we could get that help from town? This is me ask you. Can you communicate and say, this is what we need? And I'm pretty sure that you've been doing it. Or maybe now that we have different board members, they seem like they really want to communicate with you very closely. can you communicate and say, this is what we need, because you know exactly what we need, because you've been here for so many years, you've been working here and making your best. Why not going there and say, this is what we need? As Mr. Jason Key mentioned last meeting, that you guys are working behind door. Yes, behind door, but I wanna see resort.
I hope I can tell you at
that.
next month's meeting, Naris, excuse me for interrupting. I hope I can tell you next month that we submitted an application. I hope I can tell you that we submitted an application for 7 new classrooms here. I hope I can tell you that.
That
But
was
right now,
very good news.
that's the direction we're moving in.
Okay, and we need.
Fingers are crossed.
We need
I
that.
can't tell you that now. Next month, that's my plan.
Yeah, and like Mr. Jason Kim mentioned, instead of us giving those money, when this gonna be doing, because we can do it, but we needed to do it. It's not,
We're doing it. I
like,
promise you, we are doing
we
it.
have time. It's an urgent.
We're
It's a
getting
lot
there.
of things that we need to start doing it now,
We're-
as a community. And I know if they wanna do it, and I know you've been communicated, but at this point now, it seems like the communication is getting closer, so let's just make it happen.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I know push Jason too.
Any other questions? I'm afraid to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Murillo and Mr.
Kandapis.
Kandapis. Okay. Now we are going to move on to report of the board president. At this time, there is no report, okay? So next, letter E, report of the superintendent.
I need a drink of water, Mr. Chairman. So a very, 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 very important and few items from me, and I will try to be brief, but I want to be clear. Clearly, on Sunday morning, we had an emergency at Lindbergh Elementary School. For those of you that don't know, unfortunately, we sustained what I was told at about 10:15 a.m. to be smoke in the building. Clearly, our classrooms and or offices are equipped with heat sensors. Our hallways have smoke detectors. Because there was smoke in the building, that did not trigger our alarms for about 2 hours. The smoke started at about 8:40, 8:30, somewhere in the morning is what we determined by way of our cameras. Fortunately, it was a Sunday morning. Fortunately, no person was injured. No student was in the building and subjected, or faculty and staff member. Unfortunately, we have a pretty big cleanup on our hands. As you may or may not know, as the community and board members know, we have closed our school for 5 days, minimum. We are going to conduct air quality tests on Friday and Saturday before any decision is made about our students re-entering this building. And I say students, but clearly, our faculty and staff will not step foot in our school if the smell and air quality is not sufficient. It has to be an acceptable range. The cause of that was clearly what we believe not to be suspicious, as determined by arson investigators from the county and the state and Palisades Park Fire Department. We think, as scary as this sounds is, an iPad was plugged into an outlet in a behind a file cabinet in a closet in the office of the media center. And the only reason we believe that is inside that outlet, wherever there's an outlet, the receptacles were still found in there. No wire was found, but the iPad was on the floor pretty crispy, is what I'm told. All I can say is I appreciate the ongoing efforts of people in this room, Joe, Chris, Alex, everyone that went above and beyond all weekend, yesterday, today, tomorrow, and on. Because this is not something that's gonna get done in the next 24 hours. I've had board members come with me into those buildings. Again, I'm just grateful that no one was in the building when this happened. With that being said, we are permitted by the Department of Education to conduct virtual instruction beginning tomorrow in grades 1 through 6. those days will be accepted. They will count towards a 180 days. Unfortunately, the law says you must complete 3 days of emergency closures before you can do a virtual instruction. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the students had an extended spring break, if you want to call it that. But hopefully we are moving in the right direction. Additionally, we do have Mr. Weiss, who I will get to in a minute, for our annual audit presentation. But before I do that, a couple of items in new business tonight. On June 6th, we have primary day. I spoke to our board president and vice president. I'm going to ask the board to consider a half day for our faculty, staff, and students on that day, out of an abundance of caution for security reasons. The general public comes into our buildings for voting. New Jersey SLA, that is a state-required testing. I am asking the board in new business for a delayed opening on May 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th for the junior, senior high school. Very, very important that in the April meeting every year, we announce our graduation dates. And for the high school, it's really easy and thankful for me to say, unless we have another emergency, water-related, fire-related, or otherwise, that as of right now, it's 7:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m. on June 21st. We will be at the county field. Lindbergh Elementary School, although they have to make up 3 days, we rent our county field, we rent our equipment at the county field, we set up that equipment, IT, stage, chairs, equipment. I'm going to ask the board to have a promotional ceremony at 5 p.m. on June 21st. The students will still be required to go to school until the 23rd at Lindbergh. They are required to do so. So, June 21st will be Lindbergh at 5 p.m., junior, senior high school at 7:30. The Early Childhood Center will be at 9:30 a.m. on June 20th. So far, they're the only lucky ones. They haven't had any snow days, emergency days, fingers are crossed. June 20th for ECC. I will communicate all of these dates on our website to all family members and throughout our community outlets. Before I go to Mr. Weiss, I guess one of my favorite parts of the meeting is my right hand over here, Ms. Stella Cruz. I hope she doesn't have a lot. Go, Eliana, the floor is yours.
So last weekend, the Hope Club's Korean tradition instrument team, the K-pop dance team, and the PPHS dance team performed and volunteered at Family Touches Walk for Hope, which is a youth mental health program. It's really great for the students to get involved in things like that, since mental health is such a huge topic, especially being in high school. It's something that, you know, a lot of people suffer from, so it's good that they got to participate and volunteer in that. Little League Baseball started, and the high school students usually get the opportunity to volunteer and get community service hours for that, something that I'm a part of, so it's really good to get the community service for that, but also to volunteer and, you know, get a little bit of responsibility, because we have to be there at the snack stand, you know, get there on time and do all that. We started Spirit Week this week, which is a great way to end the month, since, you know, AP testing starts next week and students and teachers are getting prepared for that, and yeah, that's what we've been doing this month.
Awesome. The good news is this: May we have a meeting, and June we have 2 meetings. Don't think you're leaving at graduation. So you have 3 left. Understand me? And I know we keep on separating further and further. You're not going that far. 3 more meetings. Mr. Weiss, if I can please introduce Mr. Jonathan Weiss from BKC, our auditors from the school district. Jonathan has an audit presentation for us, please.
Good evening, everyone. It's our pleasure to come before the board and talk about results of operations for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. My name is Jonathan Weiss, and I led the audit team for this past audit season. Now, no matter where I go, no matter what I did this past summer, I can pretty much count on 3 things. Number 1, the effect of things getting back to normal after COVID-19. And especially this year, it was pretty pronounced. There's a sense of things getting back to normal, which I think is an overwhelmingly positive. Unfortunately, it comes with a couple negatives that we'll get into later in our presentation. The other thing that I look for is the effective federal stimulus funds. Be it one of my bigger school districts like this, or a small little Lebanon borough in Hunterdon County with all of its 150, 200 kids. The effective federal stimulus money is apparent, and it's going to be apparent in our presentation as we go along. Also, the effect of inflation on things. Right away, my eyes are drawn to things like transportation and things like that. We're paying more at the pump. Why would it cost less to put fuel in a bus to transport our students from point A to point B? And those three expectations materialized in all instances all summer for all clients that I looked at. Starting at the first page of our handout, going over revenues and expenditures between this year and last year. From 10,000 feet up, the district had about 1.4 million more in revenues compared to last year. As we talked about earlier, things getting back to normal means things like building use fees came back this year, and that's included in the interest and other miscellaneous item total. Student activities. Really haven't been able to do much with that the last 2 years, can't go on as many field trips and things of that nature. This is starting to get back to normal. The special revenue, the federal aid, specifically in the special revenue fund, we have a bit of a bump in there. As intimated earlier, all districts have received the ESSER grants and also the ARP ESSER grants. And this stimulus money lasts for about 3 years for each grant. And we're about towards the end of the life of one grant set, and getting towards the middle or so and the life on the other one, on the ARP ones. And those are for specific purposes primarily. Things for extended school day. There's a lot of mental health provisions that are addressed in these grants, accelerated learning provisions, things of that nature. We talked about earlier, and as was illustrated earlier during the budget presentation, there was a bump in the general fund budget, 2%. No matter what school district you go to in the state, 2% is the cap, with some exceptions that were outlined earlier to the board. Any questions, comments on revenue before I move down to expenditures? Okay, looking at expenditures, the downside of getting back to normal is that costs that were maybe less prevalent in the last couple of years are starting to materialize. Our student instruction and related services, we had a bump up there between this year and last year, and a lot of that is going to be for your therapy services, and in those instances, you're a victim of what your student's individual education program needs are. If your child's study team determines the student needs it, be it occupational physical therapy or speech therapy, the district is on the hook. Pupil transportation, we saw a bump up in that this past year. One thing that I've seen with most of the districts, employee benefits were down this year, and that's a bit of a one shot. And what I mean by a one shot is that if you were involved in the New Jersey State Health Benefits Plan this past year, you got what was essentially a holiday, or 1 month, the month of February to be exact, of free health benefits. That is no longer the case, and on top of that, the premiums have also increased, talking double digits. So it was nice while it was here, and now it's gone. Big increase in that capital outlay between this year and last year, and we've outlined some things for the board to consider in our explanations: the roof, flooring projects, the lift, fencing installation, front stairs. Any questions, comments, concerns before I move on from expenditures? Okay. We're going to talk about surplus or fund balance a little bit now, and then we're going to talk about it a lot more towards the end of our conversation. And from 10,000 feet up, surplus increased by about 1.4 million this year compared to last year. The district has relatively healthy reserves in capital and maintenance reserves. And those reserves are important because things can and do break. And you want to give yourself those provisions to have funds available to you, to not necessarily have to go to the taxpayer to fund things, specifically with your capital reserve. We also have to keep in mind that funds in the capital reserve are limited to what's in the district's long-range facility plan. And the maintenance reserve is eligible for expenses that are included in your comprehensive maintenance plan. So in other words, we kind of sort of have to budget for it, or there has to be a plan for it. We just can't spend it willy-nilly. So provisions are there. It's there, but it's there for a specific purpose. In the state of New Jersey, you can't have too much money. And in this case, it comes in the form of excess surplus. When the end of budget operations come and you've stacked up all your revenues, stacked up all your expenditures, and you looked at what's left over, that will make its way into fund balance. And the state puts a limit on that. It was 4% of operating expenses, plus some exceptions for certain types of state aid that you don't know about it until the state tells you what it is. This is going to be a big change for the fiscal year you're in now, because that 4% just went back down to 2%. So you have your 4% of your operating expenses, plus things like extraordinary special education cost aid, which I always look at as a double-edged sword, because if you have that, you have what comes with it, and those are probably big special education costs. You also those are going to be your primary things that are going to make up your ending balance, and your ending unrestricted balance, which I have as 1,434,230. So anything going over that's not reserved for something, or not encumbered for something, and when we think encumbrances, we think about those purchase orders we put in, where we haven't received the goods yet, but we've still committed the funds for it. Once we've stacked all those up, anything past that is considered excess surplus, and that excess surplus automatically goes back to the taxpayer. Not in the current budget year you're in, but the budget year you're planning afterwards. Any questions, comments? Because we're going to drill down on surplus a bit more further in our conversation. Okay, we've set up some charts for everyone. And you may be getting a sense of deja vu looking at the first one, because it's a carbon copy of what was talked about during the budget presentation. When we look at our pie chart at the top, most of it, I see that big green wedge there, is going to be in the form of the tax levy. And it's a bit of a 1-2 punch. Big punch being the tax levy, and the little punch, or our jab, our state aid. And that's primarily going to come in the form of regular state aid amounts that are given to all school districts, depending on enrollment, rateable, and things of that nature. Federal sources, I want to make sure that red wedge is highlighted, because it'll be high probably again this year that we're in now, and then it's going to start ticking down as those federal ESSER and ARP ESSER funds are spent. With miscellaneous income being things like the building use rental and stuff of that nature that we talked about earlier in our conversation. What we wanted to do right below that is line up the tax rates for the three tax components of the municipality. Two things you can't control and one thing you can. Green and purple represent the municipality and the county respectively. The blue line towards the top is what the school district's tax rate is. And as we can see, things are relatively steady. Everybody takes a dive in 2020, which that was the effect of a revaluation. And things are relatively steady tax-wise for this district. We don't see a lot of peaks and valleys on this one, which is what you're really looking to try and do. Any questions, comments, concerns before we move on to expenditures?
May I ask about the yellow color? It says miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous.
Is that a kind of donation, or what kind of money?
Sometimes we get revenues in the general fund for things that aren't taxes and aren't state aid, and that's what that category is going to be. So I'm going to cheat, because I have my book tonight. I've got my big book, Ensure Cure for Insomnia, and we're going to flip over to Exhibit C1 in our books, page 1 of 8, and we've got rents and royalties, unrestricted miscellaneous revenues in the general fund. We also have a transfer in from a fund that was closed out during this an enterprise fund that was closed out. I believe it was the Latchkey Kid program. And those things are going to stack up to give us our miscellaneous amount. Any other questions, comments on revenue before I take a moment and talk about expenditures? Okay. So looking at expenditures, and I'm gonna work from top to bottom here. I'm gonna look at my pie chart first. And my expectation, no matter where I go, no matter what I do, I'm going to expect this pie chart to be filled with wedges that are green, blue, purple, and orange. That's going to be the regular instruction, tuition, student instruction, related services, employee benefits, and the special revenue fund. And I'm happy to say my expectations been met. 2/3 to 3/4 of this pie easily with these categories. Our regular instruction being our teachers, our teachers and instructional costs, one-on-one with the kids. Our tuition costs for students we have to send out of the building. Our student and instruction related services, our guidance counselors, nurses, child study team, the library, all that stuff goes into that bucket. Employee benefits, and the big enchilada there is going to be our health benefits. And our special revenue fund, which as we talked about earlier, is enjoying the federal stimulus funds. We can expect for this year, probably next year some, and then that well is going to dry up for some of those funding streams. And not only am I gonna do that, I'm gonna stack these up right below on the bottom, on our bar charts. And I'm going to see how consistent we are for year in and year out. And I'm seeing things being pretty steady. Bit of a dip in green. Blue is pretty steady. And purple, a little bit of a dip, but I know that purple's gonna be coming right back up this coming up year once health benefits figure in their increase and get their 12 months back. Any questions, comments?
Why doesn't this expenditures line up with the first page that was provided, with a total of 28.3 million before capital outlays? This chart suggests that
Okay.
there's 22 million.
Okay, I leave capital outlay off of this.
Yeah, I'm excluding that as well.
Yeah, I leave capital outlay off of this because capital outlay can change so much from year to year. Our capital needs are going to, we kind of have to address them piecemeal by each budget year. We kind of know what the personnel is gonna be, year to year to year to year, and that's a pretty effective benchmark. Same thing with, things like, our benefits. But with capital outlay, you could do something for say 100,000 one year and 700,000.
I'm excluding capital outlays. So excluding capital outlays, this first page has 28.3 million in expenses. Whereas this bottom half added together shows just north of 20 million. And I'm just trying to understand the difference.
And we have something here, and forgive me, I put my stack down. So are we trying to get to $29 million from here, or?
28 and change.
28 and change, so what's on here that's not on here? So I did do the math on this, and it did work before I left. And unfortunately for me, you found a blooper on this, and but you have my apologies. 1 second, please. We have a blooper on our presentation. We are not including. Unfortunately, we did not include the special education instructional costs on this.
Okay.
Apologies for the oversight, and thank you for picking that up.
Sure, no worries.
And just to, if we go to exhibit C1 of the audit report, our total special education costs are 2.240 million. And our other, we also have other instructional costs, such as bilingual, basic skills, and things like that. So I believe that's gonna make up your difference.
The 6 million in difference.
Going off the top of my head without having my calculator here.
Okay.
But again, sorry about the oversight, and thank you for taking
Sure.
that. Any other questions, comments? Okay, when talking about surplus, we have one more pie chart to look at. This time I'm going to go from the bottom up. And what we're gonna do is, as the funds go from green to blue, they're going to be less restricted. So the general fund restricted surplus, 1.43 million. And excess surplus, 823 million. So what's happening here is there was an excess surplus in the 2020-2021 fiscal, in the 2020-2021 fiscal year. The second the calendar went from June 30th to July 1st, that money was gone, because that money automatically populates your budget. So that's going to be, that's going to offset appropriations and populate automatically as a revenue. Now, the result of this current year's operations, 21-22, resulted in an $823,673 excess surplus. That means that this money automatically populated in your 2023-2024 budget as it was being prepared. General fund capital reserve, 2,555,286. That represents funds that are in your that represents a reserve fund balance that are eligible for costs in your long-range facility plan for your capital needs. The maintenance reserve, 841.69. Those are eligible for your costs in your comprehensive maintenance plan for your school building required maintenance programs. You are self-insured for unemployment claims insurance, so a little bit of fund balance goes to that. Your committed fund balance, your encumbrances are about $757,000. A little bit of assigned fund balance, and that was also used to offset budget tax increases, so that also went into the pot when the 2022-2023 budget was created. In addition to that, the general fund, we have the last little bit being the general fund unassigned fund balance of 1.3 million. Now there is a difference between that number and the number I gave you earlier, and that's due to the state aid payment and when it's recognized. Your regular state aid payment comes in for a GAAP purpose. We can't realize the revenue until we physically get it in our hands. So fund balance is going to be a little bit less there than it was outlined earlier in our presentation. Once I do that, I'm going to stack the numbers up top. And as we can see, the dark green line, the increases are primarily in the dark green lines. And they're primarily going to be in the excess surplus. That's going to come back into the form of tax relief for the taxpayer. Also, a little bit more of that for the capital reserve and the maintenance reserve. And as we get to the lighter blue shades, a little bit of committed fund balance. That was primarily for capital contracts that were awarded that were going on during the summer. And the last light blue piece is going to be our unassigned fund balance. So things have gone up to the district, and the catalyst for that is going to be going from 2% of expenditures to 4% of expenditures. And as we said earlier, let's try not to get used to that because that will no longer not much longer be the case. Any questions, comments, before we move on?
I just have a question in regards to the funds going back to the taxpayer. Those
Yes.
are funds that are not used. They wouldn't go to the reserve for future use. If I could just have some clarity as to why the fund could go back to the taxpayers.
Because what happens is in the state of New Jersey, unfortunately, you can't have too much, and I said that at the outset of our conversation.
Okay.
And, you're limited as to, what you want to put into your reserves. You do a motion in June, I believe, put money into your maintenance and your capital reserves, based on what you project your, what your, funds are going to be.
So they use it or lose it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
In our closeout meeting in the month of June, our second June meeting, we will always put in, any anticipated excess funds. Otherwise, we
Okay.
forfeit those
Okay,
funds.
got it. Thank you.
Mr. Weiss, I know you have a lengthy presentation, but for the purposes of our corrective action plan and/or any recommendations, repeat findings, do you want to just try to navigate those waters a little bit for the board's edification, if you don't mind?
Yes, now's going to be the next part of my conversation.
Excellent, thank you, sir.
Our charter or listener, my contact information is right on there too, if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, always happy to answer. Now, and what we do is, we come out and we look at everything, from payroll books to vouchers, to enrollment stuff, to bank statements. We look at everything, we ask tons of questions. The results of the audit are included in your auditor's report to management, which I have a page here. And I'm gonna go down the recommendations with the board one at a time. We have 6 recommendations. Recommendation number 1, the state of New Jersey requires certain signatures to be on board checks. When I say board checks, mainly your warrant or your warrant account. Basically the big checking account. And it's gotta be the board president, the board secretary, and the superintendent or treasurer of school monies. So we saw that wasn't being done, and we put in a recommendation to do that. We want to make sure that all federal form I-9s are available are on file for employees. We want to make sure that all minutes of board meetings are signed physically by the board secretary. And as a suggestion, would also be a good idea to have the board president also sign the minutes. Should maintain a general ledger for the food service account. Now, I've said it a couple times, and I'll say it one more time. You can't have too much money in the state of New Jersey. And you can also have too much money in the state of New Jersey in your food service cafeteria fund. And what's called is net cash resources. And a lot of school districts have this problem in New Jersey, primarily because of the effect of federal money the federal government has had in essentially paying for everybody's lunch over the last 2 years. This has resulted in excess cash resources for most school districts, and Palisades Park is no different. Now, there was a recommendation in the 2020-2021 audit for excess net cash resources. That was still the case this year, although the district's making efforts to spend it down, and we want to be a continuing effort to spend that cash down to what the appropriate level is according to the state of New Jersey. And it's a state imposed requirement. The last recommendation is to make sure that students listed as low income in the student reporting system are supported by a free reduced lunch application or a direct certification verification. We had a couple of minor suggestions to management. Making sure receiving signatures are clearly indicated on all vouchers. Nothing major, just had a couple of miss on that one. Tracking of balances in the student aid account used for scholarships, just to make sure that all the money coming in is being tracked separately. And just to make sure the athletic director is approving all disbursements from that bank account. That being said, those are the results of our audit. I'd be happy to take any more questions, comments, concerns.
John, on behalf of the board, before there are any questions, I just want to applaud you and your team. I know you guys came in. We put you in our conference room. Welcome to the garage. We tried to make it as hospitable as possible. Thank you, really. There were many of the recommendations we've already implemented. I promise you, like these are areas that we seek to improve our day-to-day operations. We are already improving, and I commend you and your team for your efforts. Thank you.
I'll be happy to take any other questions, comments, concerns from the board. So with all that, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for being here, John. Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. My contact information is available. Have a great night all.
Thank you, John. That concludes my report.
Okay, next one, report of the board attorney, Mr. McCall.
Yeah, I have no report. I have no report.
Okay, thank you anyway. So, now I'm going to move on to approval of board minutes. The first one, approval of board minutes for the December 15, 2022. Thank you. Regular meeting minutes. Okay. And may I have a motion on that resolution?
I make a motion for approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
You mean the minute of, what
December.
minute? In December? December?
December 15th.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Roll call, please.
Yunman,
Yes.
Agnieszka Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Ellen John,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
Yes.
Rebecca Lee. Oh, nope, she's not here. Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Okay, thank you. Second one would be a resolution for the March 15, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
I make a motion for approval.
Second.
Any, yes, discussion.
I don't know whether, I'm not sure, but on March 15th, we discussed about the restroom repairment, but there's nothing mentioned in the minutes, so it gotta be included in the minutes.
You mean, it was on March 15th, do you remember that we were talking about that? Does anyone remember?
So I know there was a discussion of it. Again, I think this becomes one of those matters, Mr. McCann, if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, just as a factual matter, I recall, you talking about the restroom repair. When it
Even the audience made some comment about that, but there's nothing in the minutes on the March 15th.
Okay.
It's gotta be included.
I think we need to establish what exactly must be memorialized in the minutes. Otherwise, every
Right.
month, we might have an issue of what's excluded and what's not.
All right, so as a general principle, what's included in the minutes is, the minutes are a summary of the meeting. It's not a verbatim, record of word for word of what's included. But I think what you're referring to tonight is a subject matter, you're not suggesting something that's word for word. So something like that probably should be included in the minutes. And so it's simply a corrective action that requires action by the board. So again, you're talking about a general topic, and if it's not in there, we should include it, as opposed to specific word for word.
We're talking about the restroom behind us.
Yes.
Alex,
The laboratory was not not in good condition. That's what I talked about, and we discussed about that.
Right.
I don't remember all the details exactly, but we discussed, but there was nothing in
Yeah,
the minutes.
so we can take corrective action now, if, with the president requesting a motion, to amend the minutes of the March 15th, 2023 minutes to include the topic, that, the superintendent discussed the improvements of the restroom.
Early childhood center restrooms.
Yes.
And I also recall mentioning that is an underground sewer concern that we would have to very likely break concrete to the sewer line
Correct.
onto First Street. So this is a major undertaking that we are not neglecting. I know I spoke to this. We've had plumbers in, we've had cameras put into, those facilities. I can shut down the building, but,
This whole section.
it's literally all of this, right, Joe?
This will have to be closed.
We can memorialize it in the minutes, that's not a problem, that we had that discussion.
Yeah, and I think that we should do
So
so.
you're requesting, sir?
Yeah, at least, yeah, that's the fact,
Yep.
that was discussed.
That was
That's the
discussed.
fact. So
Alex?
Whatever the.
As per the attorney, I think we should, we should accept the
You know what
motion
we discussed.
with a contingency that there's a discussion of the early childhood center need of repair regarding the restroom facilities.
Okay,
But it has to be
so,
sold.
can I have a motion?
We have a motion and a second.
Oh, yes.
We have Agnieszka and Anthony,
Oh,
and we have, so any other
Sure.
discussion?
Any
Any
other
other
second?
discussion? If not, roll call please.
Yunmin,
Yes.
Agnieszka Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Recused, I forgot to read it, sorry.
Helen John,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
No?
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shen,
No.
okay, motion is approved.
Yeah, motion. Okay, third one will be a resolution for the March 22nd, 2023. There was a special meeting minutes. May I have a motion on that?
I make a motion for approval.
Second? Second. Any discussion? If not, roll call please.
Yunmin,
Yes.
Agnieszka Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Helen John,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
Yes.
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shen.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we are going to move on to committee appointments. We'll start with the finance, William Kim, please.
Number 1 and 2 are, we discussed with our auditors today, and it's to accept the report and the corrective action plan. 3 is related to the special.
Can you say a little louder because we are too long, okay?
Sure.
Too long distance, I can't hear you.
Number 1 and 2 relate to the audit report that Mr. Weiss described to us today, along with the corrective action plan that was described. So those 2 are to approve those. Number 3 is a SEMI, which is a Special Education Medicaid Initiative corrective action plan. I believe it's in your folders. It's the legal size sheet. 4 is for the approval of ESS Northeast. I believe those are for teachers' aides and other staff members. 5 is for food service. 6, also student activity accounts that was provided in your folders. 7 and 8, Alex has provided us financial reports and budgetary items. 9 for transfers. 10, the payroll amounts are for March, $858,547.53, and $903,877.13. 11 is the bill list. You may notice it might be a little bit higher than normal. We had an extra week between meetings. If you would recall, we pushed our meeting for this one for the budget hearing. 12 is the final budget adoption that Alex and Dr. Surlo presented to us today. 13, we've gone over the travel and related expense reimbursements. I believe it's reiterated here for 23 and 24, establishing 10,000 as the maximum travel amount for the school year. And we have expended $3,172.36 to date. 14 is the HVAC projects that we have ongoing, for payments. 15, according to the auditor's report and corrective action plan, they require either the superintendent or the treasurer to be a signer, and we're making a motion to approve that. 16 is for staff workshops. We have a number of them, including Alex, Dr. Searle, and a board member, looks like. 17, clinical staffing for home care therapies. To approve the agreement. 18, we have 3 staff members for tuition reimbursement. I believe we have an $18,000 cap per year. And 19 and 20 relate to the fire at Lindbergh for remediation and air quality services.
Number 19, Mr. Kim, if we can just, for the purposes of accuracy, the company is not ProServe, it's Serve Pro. Serve Pro is the name of the company. On number 19. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
Serve Pro.
I amended it.
Serve Pro, thank you, Alex. Ours was wrong.
20 items.
I'm glad you gave us
This
the
is the wrong one.
Nice job.
Can I have a,
I'm glad we evaluate you.
can I have a motion?
Mr.
Anthony,
Sounds
Make
like
it a second.
William made the motion. I'm sorry.
I have some questions.
Hold on, in discussion.
Make a motion for
Second.
consent
Second.
agenda
Okay.
1 through 20.
Any discussion? Then you can.
The item 4, approval of the ESS Northeast LIC.
Yes.
This company do like the teacher hiring consulting service. something
Not
like that.
teachers, more for teacher aides,
Yes.
substitute teacher aides, nursing, or therapies,
Okay.
not teachers.
Okay, this contract is just from the July 1st of this year.
It's for next year.
For the next year.
Yes, sir.
This approval was made even last year?
No, this is a new
So
company
this
we
is
are
the
working
first
with.
time?
Yes, sir.
So, then, who did you use before, and is there any?
So we've
solution?
used different companies. One of them is ProCare Therapy. There are many providers out there, but it is hard to get qualified and certified employees. This is a reputable company. We want to get them approved by the board. It doesn't mean we are using them.
Okay.
We have to interview their candidates, but the first step is to get them approved by the board.
Yeah, because this company, I checked all the minutes, previous minutes, and there was no record.
Yeah,
that
we never
used
used them
this
before.
company,
They
so
were
this
just,
is
they're
brand
new to us.
company, so I just wanted to check.
Not a problem. Good question.
And another, the item 15.
15, yes,
We
sir.
authorized the sign change.
Yes, sir.
It's just out of curiosity. In the March, okay, the signer, we assigned the signer to the
Board president.
board president. Now we are changing to you or
No,
together.
you're adding me.
Adding me.
So as Mr. Weiss said, there was never something, Mr. Weiss, the auditor who left, we need 3 signers on our checks. The business administrator, Mr. Kondowski, the board president, Ms. Min, and either the superintendent or the treasurer of school monies. We don't have a treasurer of school monies. The board has to authorize me to be a signer on the checks.
Since we just did that in March, and
Yes.
now we are adding one more. So why didn't we know that in March?
We did not have his recommendations at the time.
Oh, so
We did not have it.
So
Now we
this
are
is
doing
being done
it.
by his
That
recommendation.
is correct. That is correct.
Yeah, I have some questions.
So,
I just wondering whether there was any finance meetings in the past?
yes,
Yours?
yesterday, when
Yours
we,
yesterday? Because
we-
I just simply overlooked or not because so busy and
it's okay.
because
We met on Thursday of last week, I believe, to review the budget. And yesterday, we reviewed our finance committee.
you were sent to me. You
I
sent
believe so.
So,
I will double check.
Sure.
I don't wanna say your email address publicly.
Because during the texting, there's so many
I know.
emails come in, so that I just wondered.
I hope you did not send me to spam. Did you send me to spam?
I just wanna check it out.
I will double check. Before we leave, I can double check, but
This is one.
I saw his name.
they were
So
on
we
it.
were talking about.
We were worried about you. I thought you went on
Maybe
vacation.
busy for the tax return things we were talking about.
Yeah, we sent you, I will double check, Mr. Lin. Before you leave, I can show you that I sent you the information.
Yeah, you're on the email.
It was?
I checked.
So, and whether the BOE members are eligible to get the bill list of every month?
Sure. Mr. Kondowski can share that in the folder.
I shared in the shared drive.
It was in the shared shared drive for all the board members. Thank you, Alex.
Welcome.
Any other discussion?
So number 5, the food service.
Yes.
In my understanding, we have a 56% of the students are moving to the free and reduced lunch
Yes.
application.
Yes.
So this number is still that
So-
number, that percentage is counted this one. So before this corrective action.
So the corrective action, there were 2 items that Mr. Weiss spoke of specifically related to food service. The most important one on any audit is any repeat finding. Because if they told us last year you have this concern and it's still there next year, that means you neglected to address the concern. Here is the problem. During COVID, as he mentioned, many school districts were virtual. Not much of your equipment in your kitchens were used, if any. We continue to receive funds from the federal government. We made a very honest attempt to repair our facilities, our restrooms specifically. We were advised we were not allowed to. Hence, we have surplus of funds. If your refrigerators, stoves are not broken, it's hard to spend money to replace them. When students are all receiving free lunch, it's hard to deny money that's coming in constantly during that time. I think this is a very common occurrence in all school districts. I can go on record and tell you, next year, we won't have a surplus in that account. I promise you. Bathrooms are gonna get fixed. Near the cafeterias, for the record. Don't get mad at me if the 3rd floor bathrooms are not fixed yet.
So any discussion? If not, roll call please.
Yoonmin,
Yes.
Agnieszka Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Helen John,
Yes.
Kevin Ling,
Yes.
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next to the Building and Ground Committee, Anthony Kim.
Anthony, before you speak to that, I know I spoke and I just want to clarify for the public, because the number 1 is at Lindbergh Elementary School. I spoke to the PTA president today. I also spoke to Ms. Paprada, who is in New Orleans today, who is an active member of the PTA. There's a very good chance that this event will not take place at Lindbergh School due to the emergency that just took place. We are either going to relocate to the high school cafeteria, or we are looking at a rescheduled date, not this weekend at Lindbergh. I think, and Mr. McCann, if you can advise us, how should we move on this resolution? Because I cannot guarantee that the air quality test on Friday is going to be acceptable for Saturday's event. So we are looking to relocate potentially to the high school cafeteria, or a change of date at Lindbergh School.
Okay, so, as with any resolution, emergencies are always a factor, okay? You can essentially leave it like that, which I would have no problem with, because, but given that it's a known emergency, what I would recommend is you could leave it and just add the words in the alternative, a different site may be chosen.
If the board's okay with that?
May be chosen at the discretion of the superintendent.
Alex, if you can then update this and reflect it in the minutes. I cannot go on record tonight and ensure that we are using the Lindbergh School cafeteria on Saturday. What I can tell you is, so long that the high school cafeteria is not in use on Saturday, that is a very possible alternative. Otherwise, we are looking at next week.
But that was approved a few months ago, so it was brought back because of that issue.
Certificate of liability was not in hand.
Oh, okay.
So we needed, the insurance was expired, so we needed an updated one, Ms. Chung. But now with everything happening at Lindbergh, I need to probably relocate this. So I think the resolution, as I mentioned,
Here's how it.
should reflect the change.
So what I would add in the language is, I leave it as you have it, including the parentheses with the certificate of, I would say alternatively, at the discretion of the superintendent, in consultation with the PTA, a different site may be chosen.
A different site or a different date?
A different site and a different date, maybe.
And or.
Yes, thank you. And or may be chosen.
I was an English major.
Yeah, we actually litigated and
I was
or.
never an English major.
Yeah, I had a Supreme Court decision on the meaning of and or. And or a different, date and time.
If everyone on the board is okay and understands why such. Thank you, Mr. McCann. I apologize, Mr. Kim.
Okay, the second, from the Palisades Park, Recreation Department, Family Fun Day, and then I kind of spoke with a person, weather's an issue. I should say, if it starts raining, because it's outfield, they might wanna cancel it, but there's no rain date set up yet, as of today. I guess if it starts raining, it's gonna cancel. But scheduled to be on Sunday, April 30th, between noon and 5 p.m. That's what I have.
I think we have rain in the forecast for the weekend.
Yes.
We will change, who knows?
So should we have similar language contingent upon weather permitting or something like that?
Weather permitting,
Good idea.
it's still going
Okay.
on.
Good idea.
But is it first time to bring up for the
Yeah, I
board
think so, yes.
approval?
This one
But
is.
is it possible that they can announce in public before board approval, because they sent out on the public messages last week. I received the email, and they announced it in this town hall meeting this Monday, but I didn't remember that we have approved. So, is
I
that
think they are just
possible?
seeking the use of the field. This is not a school-run event, but what I can tell you is, regardless, to the point, the weather may be a factor. Clearly, we would disseminate information regarding a cancellation and or rain date as soon as we know.
The town rec would decide.
They would have to
that
decide
information,
that,
right?
recreation.
Yeah, that's not on us.
Yes,
Most of this is in the roadway. The food trucks all line up in the roadway there. And the park.
Where the dumpsters are?
Yeah,
In the back,
and
God bless you.
The street, along the street.
So it's not necessarily on the field?
None of the vehicles usually go on the street, on the.
Is it in the back of the field, Joe, by Roth Avenue?
It's right by the doors for the, to the boiler room and
Yep,
along the curb.
yep.
That's where they usually have it.
Okay.
So,
So I think this can be a conditional approval depending on weather and other factors.
But just to be, just making sure for the right procedure, that has to be board approval first usually, right?
Yes.
The only thing they put on the field is usually a bounce house. Stuff like that.
Right,
Correct.
Moved by Anthony Kim, is there a second?
I'll second.
Sure, go
I
ahead.
remember there was, last year, there was like junior police academy starting from June 19th.
Yes.
So it was in the April's minute. So how about this year? Was there any?
No one has come to
application
me
for that?
yet about such a request.
That program was.
They did
finished?
not come to me yet.
Okay.
Okay, roll call please.
Yoon Min,
Yes.
Agnieszka Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Ellen John,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
Yes. What about?
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shen.
Yes.
Okay, next one, personnel, Ms. Agnes Garcia.
We have 4 items on consent agenda. The first is appointment of substitute teacher. The second is change in teacher status. There were certifications that this individual is waiting on that have now been obtained. The third is approval for summer school principals. Those duties will be shared this year. Fourth is approval for clinical placement requests. These are college students, and they don't get paid for this. This is part of their clinical training, and those are the 3 individuals. So I'd like a motion for approval.
Okay, second on that,
Second.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yoon Min,
Yes.
Agnieszka Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Helen John,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
Yes.
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shen.
Yes.
Okay, next one, is curriculum, Rebecca Lee is not here, so Co-Chairman William Kim, can you do that?
Sure. Looks like we have 9 items consent agenda today. 8 of them are field trips, and number 1 is the school calendar. So, number 1, it just looks like 23-24 school year will start for students on the 7th or 8th and end on June 18th. 2 is the American Museum of Natural History field trip for English and Science. 3, I cannot pronounce that, but it's theater and Segovia restaurant for Spanish 3 and AP Spanish students. 4 and 5 are both Manson Park for different grades. 4 being for pre-K and kindergarten, 5 being for 4th grade. 6 is Boulders baseball for the 2nd grade class. 7 looks like it's bowling trip to Bolero and Fairlawn for 3rd grade. And then number 8 is Northern Valley Old Japan for the Lindbergh School Band. Number 9, the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum in New York for the 5th and 6th grade chorus. Move to approve consent agenda 1 through 9 in curriculum.
Any second on that?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Calendar,
Yes.
the spring break from April is very early, like the very first 2 weeks.
Yes.
Starting April 1st. Is it just because we usually stick to the Good Friday, and Good Friday is the May?
So that's not necessarily a consideration, it's a good point. I think that's been the tradition, but it wasn't the factor in why the committee selected it. I think we considered many of things, Ms. Chung. One of them, most importantly, I thought, was our surrounding districts are also going with that same week. And when we transport some of our out-of-district special needs students, we wanted to be consistent with our employees who transport. So that was a big consideration. This year, we did not have the same week. And when we had our break, our employees were still driving students. So we wanted to be mindful of that this year.
And then June,
Yes.
last year, you do remember that some parents really complains about that the half day before
The 5 days before.
Yeah, 5
Yes.
days before the ending.
That is correct.
Of the year, was not really reflected to the calendar, so they had trouble with finding caregivers. so-
Absolutely right. So what I've done in the last 2 years, as you can see, under June 18th, there's an asterisk, and it says the last 5 days are half days. With that being said, there is also mention here that we will decide when our graduation is in March next year. I want to do it 1 month earlier to give families a little bit more notice. So, as I mentioned earlier in my report, high school graduation, I believe I said, was June 21st. If you go back 5 days from there, 5 school days. Keep in mind, we have Juneteenth that we are honoring this year. The last 5 days of school will be half days. So although I cannot determine what the last 5 days are just yet, the last 5 days will be half days.
Okay, I missed this part.
That's okay. That's a good point, though.
So next year, we are not
Yes.
celebrating Juneteenth?
So Juneteenth next year, I believe, is
It's not-
later in the year.
Right, well, it would be the 19th,
It-
so the
Right,
school would be
so
closed.
it's early again.
That is
Right,
correct.
Right, so it wouldn't,
That is correct.
yeah.
Number 7, the bolero, the parrot is the bowling place, right?
You wanna go?
Yeah.
My son has a baseball game there right now. Take me. Yes, that is the bowling place.
So, number 9, I just wondering how does they make a trip to the another high school? It's correct.
Number 9 is the Intrepid.
Number 8.
Number 8, Northern Valley, Old Japan?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Is it particularly the,
Okay.
That is the band, the Limburg School Band. There is a performance
oh,
in the
okay,
school.
cool, okay.
No problem.
Any discussion? If not, roll call please.
Yunman,
Yes.
Aniesca Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Ellen John,
Yes.
Kevin Lin,
Yes.
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Yes.
Okay, next one would be negotiation, Kevin Lim.
Yeah, in negotiation, we don't have any concerning agenda to reserve.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lim. Next one, policy, Aniesca Garcia.
We have 2 items on consent agenda. They are an update to policy 6164.1. This is in reference to referral services, and the board has to adopt the model that the district uses. The model that we currently use is response to intervention. The other option is multi-tiered system of support, but what the district uses right now is the RTI, which is response to intervention, meaning if a parent requests for an evaluation or if a teacher notices concerns, they make a referral to child study. So that is the model that we use. The multi-tiered system of support, just so we know what the difference is, means that every student would have to be evaluated, and we just don't have the resources to evaluate every single student. So the model that we use currently is the RTI, response to intervention, and we just have to designate in our policy, update it to indicate what model we use.
And the reason, if I can elaborate, please, we were just CUSAC'd by the Department of Education. This was a recommendation by way of that, I guess, investigation, finding. This is not a corrective action. It was guidance. It was suggestion and recommendation by them. And we want to cooperate and obviously make our schools and policies better. Thank you.
Thank you. So I make a motion for approval?
Second on that.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call please.
Yunman,
Yes.
Aniesca Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Ellen John,
Yes.
Kevin Lin,
Yes.
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Yes.
Okay, next one would be New Jersey School Board liaison.
I don't have reports or any things to approve.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones. Next one is County School Board rep and alternate Helen John.
Yeah, nothing to report this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go into old business. Dr. Zorilla, do we have old business?
Nothing that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Mr. Shin does have something.
In March, as the school security getting more important, we discussed about starting of the school security committee. And we discussed about that, and we said that we would start like from this month, but strangely there was nothing about this. So I'd like to know what happened and what will happen.
So I was in touch with the chief of the police department, obviously with everything happening with the fire department. That I think is also a security and safety committee in light of what just happened. Many teachable moments came of the last few days. We are planning for a meeting with board members that are on the committee in the next week or so. And I'm hopeful that at the May meeting, there will be a report.
And also just for all the board members, NJSBA is having a school safety seminar on June 9th for anyone who wants to participate.
Excellent, thank you.
So to
Thank you.
make sure,
So-
so we have the committee.
Yes.
Who is the committee chair?
Was that Ms. Garcia, and I think Ms. Chung is on the committee.
No, I don't think so.
Are you not?
I don't think so. I haven't actually.
I need to check it,
There
but
haven't been any meetings, we were trying to coordinate with the police department to just see what can be done, so there haven't been any meetings.
I have
after
arranged
this
to
I'm sorry.
open,
chairman
create the
I'm
So
sorry.
there's
last
no the
December,
police
and
officer
then I
involvement
have a-
yet, would like to, start.
Right, yes.
Start our affairs, what we have to do, okay?
Thank you for reminding us. And chairman of the safe committee is Agnieszka Garcia, and co-chairman is Anthony Kim. Okay?
I
So we
will-
operate if we find any.
I will definitely advise you in the next week or so. I have been in touch with Chief Espino. We will be having a meeting rather
Okay,
soon.
great. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, so we'll go into new business. Ms. Dr. Cerullo.
So I have 3 items. I'm gonna ask that we approve these individually. The first one, as I mentioned in my report, would be that during the primary day on June 6th, 2023, I'm going to ask the board to consider a half-day schedule for faculty, staff, and students.
May I have a motion for that? Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'm just curious, have there been any incidents in the past, and is it just an abundance of caution?
This is being so proactive that I'm not
Okay.
waiting for a problem to
Okay.
happen.
All right, fair enough.
I can tell you wholeheartedly that during election days in our schools, not only are we trying to deal with educating our children, but there has been much hoopla, it might be the best word to
Right.
describe everything that goes on around our buildings.
Right.
And then you bring in the public, the community. We don't know who they are. We have a no visitor policy.
Right.
This is an extreme abundance of caution to get in a half day and get everyone home in a safe, sound manner. Not yet, that was number 3. So we have a motion, we have a second.
Roll call, please.
Yunman,
Yes.
Agnieszka Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Alan John,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
Yes.
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Second, I'm going to ask the board to consider the request as done in many previous years during the New Jersey SLA testing at the junior, senior high school during the dates of May 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. A delayed opening for students who are not testing on those dates.
Can we just, would it, I just wanna make sure it's clear, like, what grades, because,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean, it's just vague.
So
what
memos
grade
are
it is.
sent home to the students who will be required to report at regular time.
Okay,
And
then everyone else
obviously,
is
everyone else is
at 10.
advised that they come in at the late opening time, yes.
Okay.
Just for high school.
Just
Right,
high school,
correct.
just junior, senior high school, because of the rotating schedule, because we don't have grade levels that all report to one section, and you have a rotation, the purposes of the testing and the confidentiality, it is just a major task, an undertaking that we wanna ensure that it is done
Can I
properly.
just ask, are we gonna have then extra hours for the crossing guards, because that's crucial for the delay?
So at the junior, senior high school, I wish we had more crossing guards. That's something that I would ask you to bring up to the chief when we meet next
Okay,
week.
because we need the guards for the late walkers.
Please bring that up, because I had that conversation today
Okay.
with them.
Okay.
Good point.
So can I have a motion for that?
I make a motion for approval.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yunman,
Yes.
Agnieszka Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Alan John,
Yes.
Kevin Lim,
Yes.
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Yes.
Thank you.
last but not least, although not mentioned in my report, I did discuss this with the president and vice president, and something for the board to consider. It is April 26th, because we pushed our April meeting back 1 week. Our next meeting would be rather soon. I am asking the board to consider moving the May 17th meeting to May 24th for purposes of ensuring that we can pay all of our bills in a much more reasonable fashion. So if May 24th is acceptable to the board, we would have to have a motion. We would need a second and a roll to move that date
Okay, can I have a motion?
from the 17th to the 24th.
I make a motion to move the meeting from May 17th to May 24th.
Okay, second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yun Min,
Yes.
and Jessica Garcia,
Yes.
Sue Chung,
Yes.
Alan John,
Yes.
Kevin Lin,
Yes.
Anthony Kim,
Yes.
William Kim,
Yes.
Charlie Shin.
Yes.
Thank you.
For the record, we're going with a 6:30 start, which will, again, include a work session,
Okay, that was my next.
immediately followed by our regular meeting,
Okay.
okay? Alex, so when you advertise it, 6:30 start, work session, immediately followed by regular meeting, May 24th.
Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. So now, may I have a motion to open audience participation?
I make a motion
Um,
to open.
Okay, second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So now, yes, yes.
I just, would I be able to sit in with you at that meeting with the police and fire about that,
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm hopeful that it's going to be next week. That was Joe Sperlazzo for the record. If anyone from the public, just please mention your name, so we know, and address. Ms. Min wants to send you a Christmas card.
Oh, that'd be nice.
You're right.
I'll write it, you send it.
You gotta buy the stamp it. I know him.
Mary Papoter for 4 Glen Avenue. I have a few questions, and on behalf of PTA, I wanna say thank you for, considering. I hope that you guys can relocate us, because that way we already have the vendor, set out for that day, and it will be of maybe not having that many vendor if we had to remove the date. We understand the emergency or limber is something in our hand, but if we could relocate it, we very appreciated. I know we have a few days left from May. I think we still have 2 days that we didn't use as a snow day, or we don't have any. Because my district we have, but we don't have nothing here.
In farmers, yeah.
Yes, we have like 3 days left, and we use it as a standard, we use it for the memorial, as an extra day. But anyway, that's in another district. Cirillo, I'm going back with the gate problem. I called the office, I thank you for opening for very short time, because all the happening that we get, it went back to the beginning. We still haven't get the gate getting open regular hour as we expecting. I would like to see if you could check on that, because we need that to be open for all our kids to go, not jumping into that gate. So we have it, I called, you wasn't there, but I leave a message, say thank you, because everybody was so excited and happy, but it's not complying. It's going back to the beginning. The gate is not open, the kid has to jump over the fence, and it seemed like a very, very danger. Again, we need to have that open as a regular. I understand, the light issue and that, but now it's not that problem, because we have the field that is being using for playing baseball, and then the big light is on. So it's very clear, it's very good, but the gates continue being closed, as a regular basis. So I would like that to be checking. And another thing that I wanna say, can we, after, I know you mentioned that you guys gonna meet with the, with the officer regarding that, can we as a parent, we get the update in that, as a parent, or that's now be, because I would like to know the update in that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, any other audience participation? Yes, Stephanie Chang.
My name is Stephanie Jang. I live on 50 East Palisades Boulevard. And I would like to give all of you a report, especially about the parking lot in front of your office. I spoke to BA personally, and then he said he's gonna accelerate the pavement and all this thing for the parking lot. But since I have not mentioned that in the open public meeting, if nothing really goes fast, I'm gonna mention it, at the open public meeting. And also personally, I would like to just find out, you once had a flood in high school lobby. Is it all taken care now?
Okay, any other audience participation? Yes, sir.
Hi, Riley Rivera, 512 Glen Avenue. And we're grateful that no one got hurt during the fire. And I know there's gonna be an official report, because the New Jersey Fire Uniform Code requires one. I want to know if, I know how these things go because I've seen them before, but they're not always made public with a CAPA, corrective action, preventative action, lessons learned. And I'd be very interested to see what came out of it, because my kids go to all the schools around here except the high schools. And I would like to be involved. I know there's stuff that insurance covers and insurance doesn't cover, and there could be, so there's people in the community could be a resource, whether it's replacement of books or volunteer painting. We don't know. We don't know until everything comes out. And I would very much like to learn what went wrong, what we learned from it, if there's any system failures, how are we improving? And then my next point is to Ms. Eliana. I heard you say something about the high schools with baseball season starting. I'm managing 2 teams, T-ball and a coach pitch, and I know there's students looking to, it's the community service hours, but it's a gray area because you have to be fingerprinted and everything to volunteer, but they need volunteers for the baseball Little League season, and not just to deal with the kids, but there's not enough volunteers. So sometimes cleaning up the fields, I'll remain on the field for like 3 hours after the game, raking and picking up trash, collecting lost equipment. So if students that want to get involved, they can probably reach out to Sunny or my wife who's in the PTA. She can reach out to me. We can put some students in contact with the schedule so that after the games end, they can coordinate to help some of these managers and coaches get the field ready for the next game, or for the next day, we had a flood in one of the fields, and we could really use the help.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask Eliana. Eliana, I know you guys gonna have the pre-prom coming out. That's gonna be June 7th, correct?
Yeah, it's
We hope
June
so.
7th.
June 7th?
Yeah.
And at what time are you planning to be at the pool?
The buses are coming to pick them up at 6:30.
6:30. So,
Yeah,
but
so
at what time they have?
Usually 6 o'clock, I think pre-prom starts. They get a half an hour to take pictures and then they
To
get
take
picked up.
pictures, so they will be there at like
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other audience participation? So, I'd like to close audience participation, and
I will do my best in answering the questions or comments, and then I'm gonna turn it over to, I told you, she's my assistant here. Joe Spalazzo, 100% you will be a part of the meeting, what we learned in the last few days, and I'll touch on Bradley's question, Mr. Rivera. I didn't sleep well the last few days. This has not been an easy time for any of us. I don't know what to say other than maybe I'm grateful it happened on a Sunday when there were no children in the school. And thank goodness that there are no sustained injuries. But I take every opportunity to be a teachable moment. and what do we learn from it? And there's a lot of things that we all have learned in the last few days that we need to not just obtain like a source of knowledge, but share it. I've already shared it with other schools. Many of these rooms have heat sensors. Heat sensors. Smoke is not going to be triggering a heat sensor. Smoke will trigger a smoke alarm. Smoke alarms are in the hallway. That's something that right away, I don't want to go into the details. The fire department has yet to give me all of their findings. What I can tell you publicly is it's not suspicious. This is an accident. And what I said earlier, I think that the cause is, what I'm being told is an iPad. It's pretty scary that an iPad can cause this damage. But let them determine that, not me. Neris, clearly, thank you for your comments on the PTA. As far as the field goes, we did work immediately with the town. Immediately, I spoke to the mayor. I spoke to Chief Espino about opening those fields for the community. I also spoke to them about, I don't care if it comes from our budget. It's all the same money in this town. It's not my money and their money. It's our money. It's your fields. It's your towns. Yes, there are needs for more areas for children, for community members to walk, to get fresh air. The weather is getting better. I thought we had a plan in place for Monday for it to be open 3 days ago. And then we had an emergency. The plan is that the fields will be open. That is 100% a fact. Ms. Jang, thank you for the update on the parking lot. I just want to make sure I don't get a nail in my tire sooner or later.
Today I found you only paying $1.
You found my nail?
That-
You put the nail there? Ms. Jang, you know.
No, you're paying $1 for rent.
$1 for rent. That's $1 too much, Ms. Jang. And I don't think we've paid yet this year. I hope the check bounces. Second, as far as the high school water issue, as I mentioned last month, another freak incident. We had a hot water pipe burst, which, two, thank you,
Same
Joe.
day.
One in the first floor by the bathroom, one in the lobby. Our schools are old. We talked about it in our budget.
So am I.
Our schools are old. We need to be proactive and not reactive. Thank goodness everything was taken care of in a timely manner. We are back up and running. Fingers are crossed. We're doing the very best we can. Mr. Rivera, as far as the investigation, I don't know what records the fire department will make publicly acceptable or available. What I can tell you is, you know me personally. I'd be more than happy to sit down with you. I'm a parent first, like you are. I will share with you what I know, and I would be more than happy to share that with anyone that calls or comes to me. Have a good night. I'm done. Oh, there was a question for you. You're not done.
So for Little League, I know that I'm not sure how many volunteers we got exactly, because Mrs. Moore, who works in the main office, is the one who usually gets me to get students, but I also have announced it, because I do the announcements in the morning. I've announced it, but I'm not sure like how many students have gone to her to actually do something about it. For cleaning the field, I didn't know, like if I knew that the coaches needed help after, I would stay after and clean if I had to, but I didn't know, because they usually just pick up and leave right away. So I'm not sure like, as to the people that that played down here at the field at ShopRite, I'm not sure like if they need help after. If they would tell us, then we would stay, but I didn't really know about it. I do have Sonny's number because I've helped Sonny since last year with it, so I'll talk to him about it, and hopefully he'll.
And Eliana, if you don't mind, I think this would be great. See if Ms. Moore can give you a list of volunteers.
Okay.
They don't all have to go on the same day. If we can
Okay.
set up a schedule of who can be available on any given
Yeah, we
day,
have a volunteer sheet.
I think that would be great. And it doesn't have to only be students. Adults can be involved. People want to give back. We all want to help. It's a small town, and we're all here to help each other. Thank you. Email me when you have that. Thank you.
That's it, right? So, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for coming, everyone.
Have a good night.